Hello, my name is Rolf Green, and I will be doing the outline of the AI investment bot video. First of all, before I get started, I would like to thank Professor Oleg Kaczynski at Wholesale University for giving me the inspiration and support to finish the AI investment bot. I hope to meet his high standards. Here I will illustrate where to find the AI investment bot, how to set up the AI investment bot and use its features. In addition, I would like to show its critical functions and common troubleshoot or code test issues that arise in software development. In this regard, I will provide a summary of the code and test. Here are 5 areas of importance in the use of the AI investment bot, including number 6, the application of the Gemini API. Making sure ahead of time that the user configures the API correctly may resolve one of the biggest code test problems. Initially, I might add that the user may find it necessary to place the AI investment bot directory and files right on the user desktop in a Gemini folder to identify the program. Do not use it directly in OneDrive as it does not associate the files and their dependencies. The program will not work in OneDrive. Download the files from GitHub to your desktop directory. I have here a link found in GitHub, and it's the Full Sail Game Studios /costs 550-easy referral biz. Now, how do we set up the AI investment bot using the zip file provided? That can be found there in the GitHub as well. We use the setup directory /setup and the setup file setup.py. Let me show you that briefly by going to the command prompt. It'll take me just a minute. Okay, we're in the users directory, so we go to the setup. You will find where the program is located. It's input in the desktop. And then you will see that it is in the Gemini directory. Now, if we look at the Gemini directory, you'll see that it has a setup directory. And we can look at what we have in the setup directory. You'll find the setup.py. In this case, we can start the setup.py. It's a user interface that's very simple. Now you notice how in the user interface it shows up in the request required Python packages. And you may install the dependencies. Or you may initialize databases in the future when the advanced features are deployed. But what I would like to focus on is the configuration. You have to have an API key and an API secret key to save in the configuration. And that may be saved in the JSON file, which is config.json in your Gemini directory when all the files are open from the zip file. Okay, we'll just close this because we're going to get back to the site to see how it's actually working. Let me close this again, and we'll move on from here. Now that covers the setup directory and the setup.py file. The AI investment bot GUI setup, noted above in the /setup directory in which the Python setup.py provides a graphic user interface with instructions to set up the bot, including the API. You may add dependencies and databases at a later time, but it's necessary to add an API, as I mentioned. Now let's move on to the AI investment bot features in startup. Now we're going to move on to starting up the AI investment bot. And there's two ways that we can do that. We can use the automation, or we can use the validation, which will allow us to make a sale, or not sale, but make a buy, sell, or limit of the AI investment bot. First of all, I'll go to the directory where it's located on my desktop, because it is a desktop application. And as you can see, I've put it in my user. Let's see. Here we go. Let's get back to this VC. I go to local disk C. I look at users. This is the easy referral computer. And then I can find desktop. It makes it easy to locate in the Gemini file. And in this case, I'm going to run down to a file that helps us to just make it a trade. So let's go on down to this one here. And I'm going to copy the name. Let's see what we find when we employ that one. It's one of the many ones that I've used in the development of the program to test it and to complete it. It's on one of the early programs in the stages of development. So let's get on back to the, this shows it operating here. You can see the screen moving in automation. But let's get back to the window for the command prompt. We click Windows Command Prompt, and we go to the desktop. Choose directory, head over to the desktop. And we look again, we see this is Gemini directory. We head there. Now we do Python. This is a .py file. See here? You can actually see the Gemini API test script starting up, giving us the opportunity to do a trade. It checks the balances and asks you which one do you want to do. You want to check the balances, you want to place a buy order, you want to place a sell order, or do you just want to exit? So let's just say we check the balances. Looks like this one needs an update on the API key. So that's not updated in the directory for the API key. Let's see if we can change that and fix that, and I'll come back to this screen later. Okay, I just wanted to emphasize that we have to get the API installed, and I went ahead and had done that, and I think I can show where it is installed actually. Yeah, here we go. We're back in the command prompt, and you can see up above that I installed the API key properly, and I'm going to do the Python Gemini test command. I requested the check balances, and it shows the balances here. all I did was I put the correct APIs into the Gemini file. Usually it can be found in the config.json, but in this case it is directly in the file. Now let's try another activity or another operation. Now we still have a choice. We can go 1 or 4. We can check balances, buy order or sell order or exit. Let's say we want to buy order. We'll click 2. This may be not visible, so here we go. Click 2 because we want to buy an order. It's going to ask us some bit of questions. Enter trading peer. And I could go into that in a little more detail, but we're not going to be using, we're not going to be actually making a trade here, actually. As I have it running automated. And okay, and it suggested the amount to buy. So let's exit from here, because we're not going to make a trade. I just wanted to illustrate the basic function, buy, sell, and limit or exit. Just see the balances and go to the automation. And we'll get back here. Just a moment, please. Okay, here we go. Let's run on down to our presentation. And as we mentioned in the bot features and startup, we can use the main program, which is Python main.py. When entered in the Windows command prompt, it starts the program automatically. The user must navigate to the directory Gemini, just as we did before, in order to use that feature and make buy, sell, and limits on the automatic trade application of the unified trade strategy. The code that supports the AI investment bot through Python is an application of the Gemini API. We applied the Gemini API as I showed you, and it worked after we did. And we did the secret code as well in the configuration file. Finally, I would like to review the new conversation about the API investment bot, including critical code and the common troubleshoot or code test aspects of the software development. But before I do, I want to illustrate how the main program is working so you see it completely. So let's go on back to the command prompt, and we'll run an operation of the AI investment bot. Now, same process. We can check to see that we have a directory to the desktop. Go on to the desktop, and we have a directory to the Gemini program where the files are stored, and we can change the directory to go to Gemini. And now we see the files for the investment bot itself, and one of which is the main.py. Yeah, right here. It's the main program. So we're going to do Python on the main.py to start the program. It should be already configured with the API, so I hope we won't be held up by any more mistakes. Now you can see that it did access the databases, it applied the API correctly, and is starting the trading bot in live mode. And the current balances show that the minimum is above 500, so it can do trades, buy, sell, or limit. It gives you a report of the current BTC price on the market, which has been falling lately from like 105 on down to, I see 87,907 now. And it shows the balances in the account. But before I leave this, I would like to show you what it's like when we have a minimum balance that stops the sales. Because it has more than the minimum balance, it will continue making purchases, buys and sells, earning profits. And that's assuming that the market conditions are appropriate, because the program has a strategic setup to analyze the current conditions in the market before it activates a trade. So let's move on. We'll look at the other example. And I'll show you that in previous cases it would stop the trade. Let me see if I have a good example of it. Okay, that's the command prompt. Let me close this window. And I'll just drop this down and look at the bot operation. In this case, you can see that it reports all of the balances, the current price. Okay, that is above the limit, so that's a later one. I want to show you an earlier one. Maybe it's this one. And that is the report running with the choices you make. And here's another screenshot that shows the earlier one, I believe. Yeah, this is one of the earliest ones. You can see right now that it's below the minimum balance, and that's been set up in the strategy so that it will limit activity strategically, as we mentioned. And in this case, it will not make sales or make purchases while the minimum is below. It's been set up to stop while the minimum is below $500. And it just so happened that today I increased the amount in the account above 500, so it's running again and doing trades, and they will show up in your Gemini account. Some of the trades are very small because it works on what's called a wiggle schema and strategy. It's originally based on the plan in some of the investment bots like BidScap, and I think another one, the name of which I can't remember at the moment. But this one works on your desktop directly rather than being out in an external organization that's offering the bot. Okay, where do we go from here? I want to show you a few things about the diagrams that we use in the troubleshooting that we do. So let's go back to a couple of the diagrams. And first of all, I think I'll go to the AI investment sequence. And I made this sequence diagram called the AI Investment Bot Interactive Sequence Diagram, so you can see the activities that are taking place when you're using the bot, and it's the organization, the structure of the program. And you notice there's a stick figure on the left. He asks the question, how do I start? And the trading bot says, well, click initialize to start the bot. And that's what we did when we did the validation and we made a trade, or we just looked at the balance, or we made a sell of the BTC. And there are other types of investments that you can make if they're set up in the system. The system, arrows over to the config manager. And of course the bar here is what would you say, horizontal? But actually when it's active it should be vertical, and eventually I'll change that to indicate it's a vertical bar that is operating actively. And it arrows to the config manager. The config manager sets the API. And then what's happening now After the API gets through, the bot is analyzing market data by accessing a database, as you see on the right. And is my trade complete? The question's asked. And the trade's executed successfully depending on the market conditions and the unified trading bot method. And when the market API is accessed, the trade is immediately reported in your account. And it continues on that, like in every 60 seconds, reviewing the markets and making trades if the conditions are appropriate. Now here we have a markup of the market showing, the market can be going up, it can be going down, it can be rising steadily. If it were rising steadily, the bot would become very active because the strategy is designed to buy low and sell high. Okay, so we looked at the UML interactive sequence diagram. Let's look at a couple of other diagrams, like the class diagram. The class diagram shows the operation of the static environment of the program, the AI investment bot. It has what's called a unified trading bot, API connectivity. It gets the market conditions and executes trading strategy. It accesses the database when it's executing a trade so that it can report the trade. And it logs all those conditions and the profit as well as the trade or loss. We hope there aren't any because the market strategy is really aggressively designed to minimize loss and to maximize profits on the trades. The config manager is considered a string which has the secret code which references the secret codes of the API and gets the configuration loaded. All turns into an active bot. Now we mentioned the UML sequence diagram already, and we showed the fellow who was making a trade. And in the command design illustration, we can see there's a person operating the system, and it invokes a command that executes a trade. Okay, and he may check the balance, and the system will automatically convert USDC to the tradable currency and make reports. It's set up to make reports, and it can conduct a market, buy, sell, or limit buy, limit sell. Or it could cancel the order, but it works automatically in doing so. Okay, that gets us into the actual process of reviewing the code and troubleshooting. What are the most common issues in troubleshooting? And the most critical functions were as we described in the diagrams. Okay, let's get back to the presentation on the okay. Yeah, we're back here. This gets into the code issues that we encounter. Now we managed to get through the API, and that is no longer an issue. It's not an actual essential issue of the code. That has to do with failing to put in the necessary credentials to get the trades operating. In the process of software development of the AI investment bot, I ran into frequent troubleshooting problems which Abacus.ai helped to solve. For example, I applied what I learned to the development of software through Abacus.ai to create the attached files. And I had numerous common sense, simple questions about the process of code creation and troubleshooting. And for documentation, I noted the common troubleshooting steps and critical code found in the process of the AI investment bot software development. In short, what are the most important elements of the code without which it can't function? Abacus AI became a major resource in the process, and I couldn't have managed the completion of the code and problem resolution necessarily without it. It's an open source avenue of approach. For now, I would like to just look at some of the major problems in the code development process. And it can get quite laborious, but I'll focus on some of the solutions I found in the code in the main.py program. And that's the cornerstone of the AI investment bot. It's the program which runs the bot command in the prompt by executing Python main.py. In research of the AI investment bot, I was led to develop the software's main program called the main.py file. And as you notice, I did another program, validate program, which executed buy, sell, and balance review and limit. But the main.py will develop further through advanced techniques to automate the process and to use market conditions to predict outcomes. Prior to the creation of the main program, it had several names to validate the step-by-step AI investment bot trade process. In other words, several files perform individual trade activities if the bot user wishes to limit its scope and perform trades. Nevertheless, the AI investment bot worked each time until the completion of more advanced features in the investment strategy that led to the development of the main.py program. The following description shows critical elements and common troubleshooting areas of concern in the process of the trading bot implementation, quoted from abacus.ai here. And one of them is the loading of the configuration. I won't go into it in detail to the extent that AI does, but we want to just mention error handling. The code implements comprehensive try-except blocks throughout, and critical issues are resolved to prevent crashes and maintain operation. Its core trading components use a unified trading bot. It monitors the balances, it tracks market conditions, and calculates the portfolio. Common troubleshooting issues are, as mentioned, the API connection. Okay, you got to have the API key work in both the basic key and the secret key. And it will solve a lot of problems along the way if you keep that updated. And it can be changed to maintain security. The bot also calculates the balances and gives that complete report that we saw. I can do a report which, as it shows the balances. I think I did show you one, a report actually. And it will show the current balances and profit loss as we saw. Solution added type conversion and null checks. The database integration worked after the API was applied and configuration was loaded, the trading was initialized, and the balance monitored while the market conditions were logged. We can also get logs of error messages. When we're doing code testing, we have a log for all the problems that we encountered, and they were literally hundreds, but for example, just this morning I must have done 12 tests, which failed, and then I was able to come to a solution. But in that testing, I was adding conditions in the program trade strategy, the unified trading strategy, to allow it to make sales that will restore the minimum balance by doing profitable sales as the market's rising. Instead of waiting for the minimum balance to come up, it will make a profitable sale and then restore the balance. And that's an advanced feature that requires considerable troubleshooting. I showed you that with the example where the minimum balance was at 500, so trading stopped, and where the minimum balance was below 500, the trading continued when the profit justified it. Okay, so finally, in troubleshooting the program, I had to address issues related to all these components without which the bot would not work at all or even function properly. I often tested the program to the point where the cursor did not move and just stayed there at the command prompt. I had to stay motivated to try again. I had to address even the safety of the AI investment bot. But the most critical element of the bot creation had to do with its ability to conduct robust error handling and logging, prevent catastrophic failures, and 3 report balances, as well as review its own performance. And in effect, now that it's working autonomously, it's doing self-maintenance by restoring the balances. And just want to thank you for participating in the presentation. I hope you have a good day.